student. I have these parents that are horrible. They won't do what I ask them to do. That doesn't exist in my student. It never has. Okay, here's why. So they come and they observe 3 lessons. They write down questions and concerns, anything they want to ask me after watching 3 complete lessons. Then we have the parent conference. So at every lesson, I'm going to talk about the lesson. This is what I ask the parents to do at the conference. Let's fast forward to the conference. I ask them to come to every lesson with a notebook. And it's a notebook that has many pages. So they take notes on July 1st, they take notes on July 8th, on July 15th, so we can look back and see what the progress is. And it's an encouraging thing to see, oh, we only worked on this piece for 6 weeks, but maybe we worked on this piece for 12 weeks, or maybe you started this piece like the jig 9 months ago, and now we have it. So I asked them to bring a notebook and to take notes at the lesson. They write down everything I ask them to do. Now, how many of you parents do that? I'm not saying how many of you don't do it. How many of you parents have a notebook and you take notes at lessons? Raise your hand. Hi. Okay, bless you. How can you make a practice chart at home without notes from your lesson? I'm really detailed and picky. So as long as you know that about me, okay? So I ask them to write everything down, and if I am teaching, now I have the seat of honor that's right here at my piano. I have 2 pianos. The mom or the dad sits in the seat of honor. The child's here. I'm right here with access to my piano. Now, how many of you are string people? Okay, well, it still applies. Okay, so the parent is in the seat of honor, this close to the child, and the parent is asked. I ask that and parents, if you're here, this is what you need to do. It works. I ask the parent to sit in the seat of honor with a smile on his face the whole lesson, a pleasant look. Because how many times did the child look at the parent, wondering if the parent's going to be smiling or frowning? So that is first responsibility, parents. Amanda, I'm sure you do that if you do that with me. I know Amanda well, that's why I can call her. She sits there with a smile on her face at every lesson. That's so encouraging for the child. It doesn't have to be fake, but you have to have a pleasant look. And I ask the parents to sit all the way back in the chair. You know, here's the notebook, and they're taking notes, but they're relaxed. They're not. Or curve your fingers. So they sit quietly, and they don't address the child at all. If they have a question, they can get my attention, and then I let them talk to me. Nothing negative is said at the lesson from the parent. I learned that way back at the beginning. Because the children, in the Suzuki philosophy, the children are to be encouraged. Okay, so one time, if you've heard this story again, it's my favorite story about Dr. Suzuki. I had the privilege of knowing him and watching him teach for years. We met him in 1966. He died in 1998. That's a lot of years for us. Every time he came to America, we were there watching him teach. So one time we were watching him teach, and they had American children come. And so this little boy was 9 years old, and he had a violin and a bow, and Dr. Suzuki asked him to play for him. And of course he smiled. The boy was smiling, Dr. Suzuki was smiling, and the mom was here, Dr. Suzuki was here, and the child was here. Nice triangle, right? And so Dr. Suzuki welcomed the mother, and we applauded for the mother because the child had come, and she was responsible for having the child at the lesson. So he said, "Thank you, Mom," and he applauded her. Now he taught us that when he was to applaud, it wasn't this. He said he wanted thunderous applause. And so we applauded so son today to have a violin lesson. I mean, how many times do we say to our parents, thank you for bringing your children to have a lesson today? What a privilege it is for us to teach those children. Okay, then the child played Allegro. And I was a new teacher. I didn't know a lot, but I became critical almost immediately because he held his bow like this. And his violin, how many of you play the violin? Raise your hands again. Okay. His violin was down here, and he was playing Allegro. He played all the right rhythm, but it was horrible. And so I said to myself, where did this child come from? This is my judgmental, immature, non-Suzuki heart before I knew what the real Suzuki philosophy was. We should have only our best Suzuki violin students playing for Dr. Suzuki. This is horrible. Who is his teacher? He shouldn't even be holding the violin. I mean, how could he play Allegro and not know how to hold the bow or the violin? The violin was here. So anyway, I felt I was really angry and frustrated. And it's good for me to be honest, isn't it? Until the lesson was over. It changed my life forever, and it still touches me very deeply. The whole time he played, Dr. Suzuki was looking at this child, smiling and nodding. And he even looked at the mother twice during that lesson and smiled at her. And I'm being critical. And when I saw that, I began to weep. And it still touches me deeply. Okay, so the lesson's over. I mean, he plays Allegro. He gets to the end, and Dr. Suzuki stands, claps for the boy. Let's all try the thunderous applause, okay? There were 500 people in the audience. It was thunderous. When the applause stopped, you know what he said to the boy? Congratulations! Only he was spoken in his broken English. But with that kind of enthusiasm, you played it all the way through. And then we clapped again. By that time, I was in tears. Okay, so we always find something positive to say, right? You played it all the way through. Wasn't that a wonderful accomplishment? Mm-hmm. If we hadn't known it was Allegro, we wouldn't have known it was Allegro. Okay. So the parent, I'm talking to the teachers right now about that, what I learned from him, and I don't think I need to say any more about that. So I asked my parents, so parents, you can do this if you want to. Teachers, you can do this if you want to. This is just how I do it. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. One time I said to Dr. Suzuki when we met together, at the time, I mean, I'm not nervous. I'm so grateful that I was given the opportunity to be a Suzuki teacher. So I met with him, and so at the end of meeting with him, I had some questions about how crazy it was to expect Suzuki piano students to play all their review pieces. I mean, the violins and cellos and violas can have group classes, they can play together, but we can't do that piano, so we can't possibly play all our review pieces. And I didn't talk like that. I mean, I was. So I finished my whole speech, and I said, so surely, Dr. Suzuki, you don't mean that Suzuki piano students have to keep all of the review pieces in their fingers? And he said, yes, they do. So then I came back home, and I changed it, and we got together, and that's what my students do now. That's the Suzuki way. But one time, I was talking to Dr. Suzuki and asked him, what does it mean to master each step? And us as teachers, all of us as teachers, and as parents, need to know this. Because he does say, in his basic philosophy, does he say, master each step? Does he say that? Yes. It's there in black and white. Does he say, learn in small steps, right? So a whole master each step doesn't mean 15 measures. It might just mean 3 notes. Master each step. So I asked him, what does it mean, Dr. Suzuki, to master each step? And his answer changed my life and my teaching. It means they cannot possibly play it incorrectly. That's mastery. They cannot possibly play it incorrectly. So who has to be responsible for that? The teacher. Mastering each step. I want you to write down questions if you have questions for the end. I'll save about 10 minutes for questions. The other thing that is I wanted to say to you about parenting, because he encouraged me so much as a mother as well as a teacher. He said, I said to him, I wish I could come to Japan and sit in your studio and watch you teach for 6 months. I would learn so much. And you know what he said to me? I'm not making this up. He said, I wish I could come to Cincinnati and sit in your studio and watch you teach. I would learn so much. I mean, I was sobbing. I think he was sincere. I mean, I know he was. Then he enabled me and changed my life forever as a teacher. He said, I am the only Suzuki teacher. You are helped. He empowered me. So I do the same with you. You don't have to do it my way. You have to do it Dr. Suzuki's way. Right, let me go back to the parent's responsibility at the lesson. So I don't necessarily think that it's right for the parent to say to the child, okay, today's your piano lesson, get all your music together, and be sure you have everything. Be sure you have my notebook and a pen for me, and we're going to leave at such and such a time. And so then they're late, and then she's really upset, or if it's a dad, he's upset, all the way complaining to the children, oh, you know what, we're not ready for this lesson, you didn't work. Anyway, so they are supposed, none of that's good. So I asked the parent to get the music together and have the practice chart. So they come with the practice chart every week and hand it to me at the beginning of the lesson, and I can see all that they've done in practicing. The parent makes the practice chart after each lesson. I recommend that you do that from your notes. And so parent comes to the lesson in plenty of time. I require 30 minutes of observation every single week at every lesson. Dr. Suzuki said that observation is really important for the Suzuki students. And he has many quotes, and I can talk to you more in private sometime about the value of observation. But what I require is that they come 30 minutes before their lesson, and they don't sit in the back of the room and watch or play games or whatever, but they're right up here. So this is the child, parent, the teacher, and the child, and right here I have 4 or 5 chairs for observers, and they're just right here, just like you see in an institute, right? How many of you have been in my studio here and you see children sitting right here to observe, and they observe quietly? So I ask them to come and observe 3 lessons. The mom and dad, both, and the children come to observe lessons. Then they can tell what happens in a lesson. So they do that. But I require them when they come for lessons, and they actually begin lessons with me. By the way, then after they observe 3 lessons, I do a 90-minute parent conference. And you might do ongoing parent training or whatever. But as long as before they start lessons, they know what's expected. So then I ask them at the parent conference to come every week 30 minutes before their lesson or stay 30 minutes after their lesson for observation. And so they're sitting and somebody's playing Echo Says, on the piano, and we all applaud, and we had a thunderous applause because the observers applauded, just like here at the Institute. And then everybody will say a word of affirmation for the child. Your tongue is really beautiful. Your back was straight, a good posture, whatever. That takes some time, but it's really encouraging for the child and the parents to hear the observers speak words of affirmation. Or they can stay 30 minutes after their lesson. You see, it makes it family. The people are together. And somebody said we'll say to them after they've observed a few weeks, they'll come and they'll say, wow, you really improved on that. Maybe they don't come to the same lesson, it doesn't matter. They can stay after their lesson and watch another lesson instead of watching the lesson before. Did I say that's a requirement? Yes. I'll tell you a story about Meg and Cheryl. And they've given me permission, this was years ago. Meg started lessons from me in Cincinnati when she was 3. And her mother, Cheryl, was just an absolutely perfect Suzuki mother. And so was Meg, wonderful student. So she was a senior in high school. And she came for her lesson on a Wednesday afternoon. And after her lesson, they always would sit down on the couch and observe in my studio. And this one particular day, they sat there for maybe 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden I realized as I had started the next lesson that they were at the door. And I said, Meg and Cheryl, are you leaving? Now, in my heart, I wanted to just let them go, right? Instead of speaking in front of the parent and student over there. But I have a policy that they're supposed to stay for 30 minutes or come 30 minutes early. So are you leaving? And Meg said, oh, Mrs. Houck, I meant to talk to you at my lesson because she had already had a lesson. And I just forgot. And she said, I apologize. But she said, I have a term paper due tomorrow, and I haven't even started on it. She was a senior in high school. So I need to get home and get started and get that paper done for tomorrow morning. It's due. And I said, I understand, Meg. I said, you can go home and begin your term paper after you've done your 30 minutes of observation. They went and sat down. They had a good attitude. Now, that was hard for me. And you know how you do things that are hard for you in lessons sometimes, and your heart's pounding and you feel like you're shaking? But I had observers there, and that was my policy. So I said when they finally did, after 30 minutes left, I said, when you finish your term paper tonight, call me. No matter what time it is, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, anytime, and I will answer my phone. So she said, okay. So that night at 11:15, my phone rang, and it was Meg. She said, Mrs. Houck, I want you to know I'm done with my paper. And I said, congratulations, Meg. And she said, and I apologize again. I said, Meg, it's fine. I said, you're a wonderful student. And I said, I appreciate that you had such a sweet spirit in sitting down and doing your 30 minutes of observation. So there is a lot of value in observation. Do any of you have any idea or ideas about what that value is? Anyone in the room? Yes.
I know it would teach you, the observer, to listen more closely